It started with a rock, just an ordinary rock, and the idea that it could be something so much more. Well, if that was true, what if everything could be made better, smarter, cleaner, safer? So that's what we did. And before you knew it, those ideas were everywhere, saving lives, building neighborhoods, even exploring the stars. Millions of moments every day for over 100 years, in ways so great and small they often aren't even noticed. Oh, but they're felt. They're there when families reunite, lessons are learned, and great ideas are first born. And still we ask, what if we could be more as well? Make smarter use of our resources, build a company as strong as some of our products, and help make other companies even more successful? How do we give our people the power and opportunity to find the next future and cultivate curiosity for generations to come? For the next mind that sees a rock can become something so much more.
We believe science can cure every human disease, and we're going all in because in the end, science will win.
Morning, everyone. I am Norika Pineda of the US-ASEAN Business Council, and I'm going to be your host for today. Thank you for participating in the second webinar of the 2021 US-ASEAN Innovation Series titled Innovation for Sustainable COVID-19 Recovery, Showcasing Healthcare and Digital Services Sector. We thank our participants, our member support, and the ASEAN Committee on Science, Technology, and Innovation for the success of the 2021 US-ASEAN Innovation Series. Last November, we held our first webinar, followed by the Innovation Lab Tours in October. All of these events will not be a success without your participation. Also, thanks to Qualcomm, Pfizer, and 3M for supporting today's webinar. For our agenda, we will start with the pre-recorded opening remarks by Ambassador Mike Mahala, our Senior Vice President and Regional Managing Director of the US-ASEAN Business Council. For the first session, we will have presentation from Qualcomm, Pfizer, and 3M, followed by the second session, the panel session with the representatives from the National Research and Innovation Agency, BRIN Indonesia, the National Agency for Technology, Entrepreneurship, and Commercialization Development, Ministry of Science and Technology Vietnam, and the Ministry of Science, Technology, and Innovation, MOSTI Malaysia. For the last part, we will open the floor for the Q&A session, and it will be moderated by Mark Neely. The event then will be closed by the Deputy Secretary General of the ASEAN Economic Community, Mr. Satvinder Singh, and Ambassador Michael Mahala. So before we start, I'd like to share a few housekeeping notes. We have disabled your audio and video for this webinar. If you want to post questions, please click on the Q&A tab below and type in your questions. Later on, we will pick relevant questions for the speakers to answer. This event will be recorded and it is live streamed in our Facebook and LinkedIn accounts. We will be issuing e-certificates. If you are interested, please fill out the post-event survey form after the event. For the speakers, please remember to keep it within the time frame you have been allotted. Without further ado, we are pleased to present the welcome remarks of Ambassador Mike Mahala, the Senior Vice President and Regional Managing Director of the US-ASEAN Business Council.
Good morning and greetings to our audience and participants, and a warm welcome to the following honored guests. Mr. Satvinder Singh, Deputy Secretary General of the ASEAN Secretariat, His Excellency Professor Sirirudh Songsivalai, Chair of the ASEAN Committee Science, Technology, and Innovation, Dr. Mego Panandito, Acting Deputy for Research and Innovation Utilization, National Research and Innovation Agency, Indonesia. Mr. Pham Hong Quat, Head of Department, National Agency for Technology, Entrepreneurship and Commercialization Development, Ministry of Science and Technology, Vietnam. Dr. Mohammed Noor Azam bin Hassan, Deputy Secretary General, Ministry of Science and Technology and Innovation, Malaysia. Representatives from Pfizer, 3M, Qualcomm. Distinguished participants from ASEAN member states, including government officials, researchers, think tanks, businesses, students, and media. Thank you all for joining us today in the second US-ASEAN Innovation Series webinar. Today's webinar theme is titled Innovation for Sustainable COVID-19 Recovery. And in our program today, we will showcase innovations in the healthcare and digital services sectors. I would also like to thank the ASEAN Committee on Science, Technology, and Innovation for their partnership and cooperation in working with us to organize today's webinar. On September 29, we successfully concluded our first innovation webinar, which focused on developing innovation hubs in ASEAN and included a virtual visit to the global innovation labs of several of our member companies. Members guided us on a virtual tour of their innovation labs and showed participants some of the cutting-edge technologies developed inside those labs. The COVID-19 pandemic has further reinforced the importance of innovation as new and strategic solutions are needed to combat the pandemic and facilitate economic recovery. Many countries all over the world, including the ASEAN region, went into lockdown to prevent the spread of the COVID-19 virus. The pandemic changed the way we live, work, and socialize. According to the World Economic Forum, activities in telemedicine increased by a whopping 490%, while online socialization and transactions almost doubled. Connectivity is the new critical infrastructure underpinning a new normal. Connectivity enables digital health solutions, which have been instrumental in COVID-19 response and also important for continuity of care for non-COVID patients. The number of active users of telemedicine platforms grew 4 times compared to pre-pandemic numbers. The World Health Organization advocates for the use of digital health services to reduce transmission of the virus in physical care settings and to provide convenient and cost-effective healthcare services to a broader reach of patients where medical infrastructure and technology are less accessible. As we look toward a post-pandemic recovery, the rollout of 5G will not only bring stronger internet connectivity, but it will also level the playing field amongst different industries and open new opportunities for innovation, technology, and entrepreneurship. In some aspects, the barriers to entry have never been lower. 5G will make the transmissions of data faster. It will increase network capacity, coverage, and density for users, facilitate the Internet of Things, and provide an avenue for expanded uses of artificial intelligence. In this context, I'm eager to welcome you to our second webinar to discuss these innovations and technologies which offer solutions in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. These technologies are also important tools for economic recovery in the ASEAN region. Our speakers from Qualcomm, Pfizer, and 3M will present various emerging technologies in the areas of digital health, 5G, and pandemic preparedness, as well as emphasizing the role of intellectual property rights to support innovation for a sustainable recovery across the region. Through today's forum, we invite you to further discuss with our speakers and panelists how emerging technologies have the potential to change the economic landscape, to rejuvenate economic growth, and to cope with the changes brought about by COVID-19. I hope today's event leaves you with some valuable takeaways on how we can work to promote and support the development of innovation and technology in the healthcare and digital services industries. So, ladies and gentlemen, I wish you all a productive and interesting day. Let's get to it.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Mike. May I now call on Mr. Mark Milley, the Senior Vice President for Policy of the US-ASEAN Business Council, for his quick remarks and to welcome our speakers. Mark?
Great, thank you so much, Narika. And let me also wish everyone a good morning for colleagues in Asia and a good evening for those in the USA. We at the US-ABC are very excited and very proud to really spend more of our time and effort really highlighting both the opportunities that we see around innovation in Southeast Asia, and also obviously in a post-COVID context to really highlight the potential for new emerging technologies and innovation to really be a driver of not only addressing the public health related issues around COVID-19, but also really driving the nature of socio-economic recovery in Southeast Asia. Before we jump into our first panel, I'd like to again recognize the Deputy Secretary General for ASEAN, as Secretary, being with us today. I'd also like to recognize our US-ABC Innovation Subcommittee Co-Chair, Ms. Audis from 3M and Ms. Jennifer Young for Pfizer. We very much appreciate the efforts that these two leaders have enabled the Council to really do more, to really highlight the fact that ASEAN is a hotbed, a globally relevant hotbed when it comes to innovation. As been noted, we'll have two panel sort of presentations in addition to a Q&A session. So I would very much look forward to seeing you all again during both those times. Narika, I'll turn the floor back over to you to introduce the panelists for our first session. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mark. Now for our first session, I would like to welcome Mr. Alex Orange, the Senior Director of Government Affairs Southeast Asia, Taiwan, and Pacific of Qualcomm. In 2008, Alex Orange joined Qualcomm Incorporated as the Senior Director of Government Affairs for Southeast Asia, Taiwan, and Pacific. Alex directs Qualcomm's public policy and regulatory agenda and oversees its relationship with government and regulatory agencies in the region. Alex works with ministries, policymakers, and independent regulations on radio spectrum matters and regulations for 4G, 5G, broadband wireless access systems, such as Wi-Fi, matters related to cybersecurity, intellectual property, and innovation. Alex also interfaces with multilateral organizations and governmental forums such as the International Telecommunications Union and the Asia-Pacific Telecommunity to coordinate regional and international efforts in support of Qualcomm's technologies. For more than 20 years, Alex has gathered experience in technology policy development, 11 years of which were gained working with the Ministry of Economic Development of New Zealand, where as the senior planning engineer, he developed national spectrum management policies and plans that are considered industry best practice. Alex chaired the New Zealand radio sector that developed New Zealand's international position relative to radio communications and also participated in and led New Zealand's government delegations to numerous bilateral and multilateral and UN treaty level negotiations. Majoring in physics at the University of Canterbury, New Zealand, Alex graduated in 1989 before gaining his master's degree in electronics from the University of Otago. Alex, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Norika. Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Ambassador McCulloch in absentia. It is my pleasure to be with you today, and if you allow me, I will share my screen, and so I would and I'd like to welcome everybody in the session today, and wish you a good morning or good afternoon or good evening wherever you are calling in from. So what I would like to do today is talk about a little bit about Qualcomm, and then about how 5G can catalyze innovation. So let's see. So first, a little bit about Qualcomm. Qualcomm is, you can think of Qualcomm as an R&D engine, an R&D innovation lab that invents technologies, invents systems levels technologies, things like mobile networks and mobile communications. It's been in existence for about 35 years. It's so far invested more than $70 billion in R&D. And in order to monetize some of those inventions that have been created by that investment, it has sought and been granted 140,000 at least patents, or has those patents in the application process. So we started in the beginning, and we took analog communications to digital communications, and then applied some computing power to the digital communications, which led to the emergence of a smartphone. And now we are using evolution of those technologies to transform different industries, to transform things like the automotive industry, education, industrialization, robots, and essentially we're trying to make things, all things connected in some way or another. So you can imagine it as the beginning of the Internet of all things. So Qualcomm is the company that brought you the foundational technologies for 3G and 4G, and we are now unlocking 5G. In fact, many places of the world, 5G, you could say, is already unlocked. When working on systems level innovations, the time frame for a return on investment is incredibly long. For the generation, mobile technology generations, it's around 10 years. So we invent the technology 10 years in advance of it being commercialized. So that's a kind of quite a long, if you like, bet on the technology. And so it, in order to make it worth the time and the effort to invent those technologies, there must be some kind of return on investment, and that return on investment has to outweigh the initial investment. And so what Qualcomm tries to do is create an ecosystem for development, and the way that it does that is through its business model. In as much as Qualcomm will invest in R&D, develop that technology, it then needs to provide that technology to others so that they may innovate and create further technologies and further innovations. So Qualcomm does two things. It licenses some of its technologies, and the revenue it receives from that licensing process, it can put back into further research and development. And so that development cycle continues. Qualcomm also designs silicon chips, integrated circuits that utilize those technologies, which helps other innovators to build upon the technologies and bring them to market and thus commercialize them. So we say that we enable our customers through our technologies. Those customers transform industries, and everybody eventually enriches lives. And I think if we look at what's happened over the last 20 years or so, 20 years ago, was the emergence really of 3G communications. And we've seen such huge transformational changes in the world over those last 20 years, driven by digitized mobile communications. Of course, Qualcomm does this globally, but we're doing it specifically in ASEAN, and we take our technologies, cellular technologies like 5G and 4G, other connectivity technologies like Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5.0. We're of course doing hardware and RF design. We couple it all with machine learning and advanced artificial intelligence. These get built into different kinds of devices, and indeed things like smart cameras that incorporate artificial intelligence to have smart vision, computer vision. Of course, we need to make sure these technologies are secure and hardened against hacking and attacks. And of course, things need to be exported, and in order to do that, things need to be certified and, of course, manufactured. So those are the kind of technologies and systems that we're working with. In ASEAN, we then couple them with our engineering advice in country, advanced laboratories, help people design reference designs, prototype. We train people and our partners in some of the advanced topics like artificial intelligence, machine learning, 5G, focusing on smart cities, and indeed we're working alongside companies and operators to launch their networks, optimize their products, and then we also work alongside other enterprises to incubate them and enable research. So some of the partners that we involve in these initiatives are the mobile network operators in various countries, device OEMs and ODMs, of course, small and medium-sized enterprises, systems integrators, the government, and universities. So taking just a quick look at Vietnam for a moment. In Vietnam, we have a program called the Qualcomm Vietnam Innovation Challenge, or QVIC. And the aim of that initiative is to take Vietnam's startups and develop them, and so that they can produce technologies and compete on the both in the domestic and in the international stage, and then through those companies we are aiming to transform Vietnam into a more innovation-driven economy. So that program works a little like this. We have an application phase, usually in the March to September timeframe, where we explain about the program, and we seek applications from small enterprises and startups. We then shortlist those companies or those applications into about 10, and each of those 10 shortlisted companies, we provide a cash incentive and business and incubation support. And that incubation process in the last program happened from November 2020 through to August 2021. And in that timeframe, we provide technical support, business coaching, IP awareness training, and incentives to file patents. Then there is a grand finale, and we choose the winner, the first runner-up, and the second runner-up. And that grand finale actually just happened in October. In the incubation phase, the shortlisted companies filed a total of 14 patents and 2 trademarks. So they were establishing their bona fides there. So the winner was a company called Rostec Technologies, and they developed an autonomous guided vehicle for fleet management systems in smart factories. And there was another company being the first runner-up, AIOZ, which developed a robot for indoor delivery and assistance in hospitals and universities. And the second runner-up was a company called BusMap that developed AI cameras for smart cities and smart transportation. And we're very proud of those three companies. So essentially, underpinning this, this support for innovation, first of all, is Qualcomm's own innovative process, or which we call purposeful innovation, where we're creating the breakthrough systems technologies. We seek to inspire people to learn about science and technology, and to inspire them to become inventors and develop the workforce of well-educated, well-skilled, technically skilled people to work in the ICT industry. We also, in the process of doing this, maintain responsible business ideals and practices of integrity, protection of human rights, and privacy, and something that's becoming increasingly important, a sustainable environment. And lastly, the thing that holds everything together and drives the industry forward is, of course, people. So by developing innovations and education with responsible business ideals, we are hoping to develop a inclusive workforce within which innovation can flourish. So with that, I will conclude my presentation and turn the screen back to, I think, Norika. Norika, back to you.
Thank you, Alex. Let's now move on to our second speaker. I would like to welcome Dr. Anil, the cluster lead, mid-sized markets, emerging Asia region of Pfizer. Dr. Anil is the cluster lead, mid-sized markets of emerging Asia region, Pfizer Biopharmaceuticals Group, responsible for countries of Indonesia, Malaysia, Pakistan, Singapore, and Vietnam. Concurrently, he is responsible for community business, Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine for the entire emerging Asia region. Anil has more than 15 years experience in the pharmaceutical industry, all of which is working in Pfizer. He has handled a diverse range of roles, including country manager Indonesia, regional commercial lead, and interim regional president. He is passionate about solving for equity in healthcare access and digital application in life sciences industry. He has led the engagement with governments across countries in Asia during the pandemic on access to the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine. I am pleased to call now Dr. Anil.
Thank you, Norika. Let me start by sharing my screen. I hope you can see my screen. Good morning and good evening for participants who are joining from US. All the dignitaries on this call and the participants, this is an honor to be here today on this session. Like what was stated in the opening comments, COVID-19 pandemic has triggered us to rethink the way healthcare system operates, not just in the way companies like Pfizer bring breakthroughs to address the pandemic, but also how we can really reach patients more effectively, efficiently, driven from the power of science and digital technology. So today I'd like to spend some time highlighting a couple of points or a couple of areas. One, the importance of public and private partnership in accelerating innovation, especially as healthcare and digital ecosystems are beginning to converge, as we've seen during the pandemic, and we believe it will continue to happen post-pandemic. And the other is what we can do to really bring focus to digital healthcare and shape the future of this in ASEAN. These are the two broad subjects I'd like to spend some time on. When we really think about the importance of public-private partnership to manage the most significant, I would say, event in almost all of our lives of dealing with this public health crisis of COVID pandemic, collaboration across multiple parties had become so critical. The global communities came together. We've seen the same happening in ASEAN, where ASEAN state and members came together. Everybody was very clear that we have a role to play. At Pfizer, our purpose was to drive breakthroughs which change patients' lives. I can't think of any other breakthrough which has the unique opportunity to really impact so many lives, but for the COVID vaccine, which we developed with Pfizer and BioNTech. If I just pause and talk a little bit about the context of the vaccine. From the day which we initiated the program of the vaccine development, which was in early 2020, we have been very focused on the fact that we want to ensure equitable access of our vaccine across the world. Today, I'm very proud to let everyone know that our vaccine is available and accessible in about 140 countries in the world, including several of the ASEAN member states. And this number continues to grow as we speak. We do expect this year to produce and hopefully deliver close to 3 billion vaccines worldwide in 2021. And given our steadfast focus towards equitable access, Pfizer had made a pledge that we would deliver 2 billion doses of our vaccines by end of 2022. And we're well on track to delivering that close to about 1 billion in 2021. Now, in our perspective, when we think about the subject of today's conversation, which is the innovation and how we can harness the power of innovation, especially with science and technology converging and digital healthcare becoming a subject of the fore, our perspective is innovation is a combination of pure invention plus adoption. There's a lot of invention which is out there. We firmly believe that we have an important role to play in the way we create an environment, ecosystem, where adoption of these inventions can be really accelerated. And when we think about it, as an example, the way we're doing it in Pfizer is the collaboration which you've seen between in R&D between Pfizer and BioNTech. And we have distinctly unique strengths as companies. And this unique R&D collaboration, which we had initiated about close to 2 years back, has really brought the COVID vaccine to help deal with the pandemic. Now, apart from Pfizer, when I really reflect on it, there has been immense amount of public and private collaboration which has happened in dealing with the pandemic. Let it be governments working on studies, let it be academia, let it be healthcare industry partnerships with several of these agencies. When we really reflect on what we've been able to achieve in this very short period of time during the crisis, we have close to about 750 candidate therapies or vaccine developments which have happened worldwide, purely basis this extraordinarily focused collaborative work between governments, public and private, academia, everyone coming together to ensure that we have our arsenal to deal with this pandemic. And when I reflect on this incredible achievement and the speed and breakthrough which we've been able to achieve would have taken decades in normal times. And it's truly amazing to see the speed on which the pharma industry has responded to the need and with a very strong scientific collaboration and already existing infrastructure in place, we were able to really come to meet the expectations of what was there on the biopharma industry, which further highlights in my mind a need to nurture and strengthen those innovation ecosystems as we move forward in dealing with the COVID and post-pandemic. Now, if I have to talk about the potential of this kind of an innovation or our ability to bring innovation and adopt innovation, I think the greatest reach and impact of this can only be done when we can bring innovation and adapt it with digital technologies. And we cannot do this alone. Effectively addressing healthcare needs of poor and vulnerable people, including those within ASEAN, will require very close partnership between pharma, governments, others with the solution and expertise to share. We must extend this concept beyond just COVID for life-saving drugs, for instance, for treating cancer or coming out with therapies for cancer, or ability to diagnose early, or bringing out rare disease medicines. A system where a global processes can be truly leveraged, which we have done, and we've seen the proof of that through the pandemic, and remove the need for duplication locally. This can really fuel and ensure that the companies can bring medicines or technologies which really impact populations and save patients' life much faster to our markets. There's a huge potential for partnership in co-creation between startups and patients and their caregivers. Startups have a different strength. They by the virtue of being startups, they're really focused on their inline development of products. However, working closely in ecosystems and startup communities can help them create a much bigger impact. And there might be good potential for really coming together in a consortium and working with large corporates to create a much bigger impact for the healthcare world as a whole. At Pfizer, we have, like what Qualcomm was talking about, we have similarly established innovation labs and innovation centers, and we have one in ASEAN, which primarily focuses on digital innovation, where we provide an opportunity to either accelerate or incubate ideas. And as we speak, there are more than 5 or 6 projects in which startups are working with Pfizer and solving for some of the healthcare delivery mechanisms, affordability challenges, or even solving for diagnostic capability improvements purely using digital solutions. What we really do with the startups is give them an opportunity to really solve for unique healthcare industry challenges, and the startups have an opportunity to incubate their ideas, and we fund those ideas and we make it work. And as you can see in the screen right now, we're working with several digital companies in ASEAN to further and fuel this partnership potential, which we really see. And having an ecosystem which will enable this will be extraordinarily critical to fuel innovation in our region in ASEAN. Now, if I move into some broad closing comments of the trends which we see and where we have an opportunity in ASEAN, and I'll come back and take some questions around this at a later stage, is for us to really consider the following. We can really foster partnership between pharma and the governments to strengthen healthcare systems and enhance adoption of digital health in ASEAN. As a result of the pandemic, the whole healthcare system has been forced to seek completely new ways of operating. Most people have gotten used to some form of digital communications. We've seen a completely different way in which we live and manage health. It's a great opportunity to consolidate the behavior changes which we have experienced the learnings which we've experienced through this pandemic and establish new ways to deliver healthcare that drive better outcomes and hopefully improve patient experience of the way they experience healthcare being delivered to them. Now, when I really think about the future of digital healthcare, I see telehealth, digital therapeutics gaining significant traction in ASEAN. So we have a unique opportunity, and as I mentioned, this opportunity is for all of us to participate in, the governments in ASEAN, the industry. We all need to work very collaboratively to really think about what are our existing roadblocks. Do we have regulatory barriers which we need to address in our region, which can further enhance the way telemedicine is taking off, and not just telemedicine during our existing COVID pandemic treatment related work, but in the post pandemic stage where we can facilitate telemedicine, completely transforming the way healthcare solutions are delivered. The other one, which I think also has been stated in the opening comments, is really take a close look at our policy environment. Do we have a policy environment where we're encouraging innovation? Do we have a policy environment which attracts investments into innovation? Let it be in digital health space or digital technology space, and help accelerate those investments to happen in ASEAN. And the third most important, I think, is AI, machine learning, data science in general. It's going to be a big game changer in healthcare. And when we think about it, it's a game changer, not just in terms of the way we diagnose and manage personalized health solutions for patients, which it does with the wearable industry, digital applications, and use of AI to really help find the most appropriate treatments for the population, really getting enhanced. But beyond that, it does help us in bringing down the cycle times in our drug discovery space, and probably even do our research and development in a way more efficient and effective manner. And we truly believe that the data and data science and access to healthcare data and the ability to share data between different stakeholders and potentially even between countries in ASEAN can really fuel the way we drive innovation in digital health in ASEAN. So in summary, I think the COVID pandemic has been a challenging period, but I do believe that the future is really bright in ASEAN, especially driven with the potential of partnerships and collaboration opportunities which we have in the member states in ASEAN to drive for innovation. And in Pfizer, we are truly committed to driving innovation, as most of you know, and our purpose is to really focus on bringing breakthroughs that change patients' lives. And thank you for having me here. So let me pass this back to Norika.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anil, again. For our last presenter for the session, I would like to call on Mr. Kevin McKeegan, the Vice President and Managing Director of 3M Southeast Asia. Kevin McKeegan was appointed the Vice President and Managing Director of Southeast Asia and Country Leader of Singapore at 3M in 2019. Kevin has over 18 years of business leadership experience with a strong focus on the personal safety division. He has led business teams that span the US, Asia Pacific, and the globe. Kevin's previous assignments within 3M's personal safety division include the business director and national sales manager for the US. He was also previously the global business manager for the Scotch Light Reflective Material at 3M and APAC business development manager for 3M's personal safety division. Kevin was on the board of directors at the Women's Advocates in St. Paul, Minnesota, which was the first women and children's shelter in the United States. In August 2021, Kevin became a diversity advisory board member at the University of Minnesota Duluth and a board member at Powers and Women at NTU in Singapore. Kevin is passionate about ensuring diversity within 3M. Kevin, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marika. I appreciate the warm introduction. And I'd like to say hello to everybody. And I really look forward to today's conversation, if you will, about 3M and really what we've done as a company to innovate during the COVID-19 pandemic. And I thought what would be most appropriate is to start with who is 3M? What are we? What are we all about? And what are the things that we're doing to improve lives? And if you look at 3M Company, we are so well known for our brands that are in the consumer space, like Scotch-Brite, like Post-it notes. But I think it's important that all of you understand and appreciate the fact that oftentimes you are no more than 10 feet or 3 meters away from a 3M product. We're a company that has over 96,000 employees. We operate in 70 different countries. And we are all about driving innovation. And we drive innovation by getting out there and understanding some of the world's greatest problems. And by understanding the greatest problems, we then take our technology and use it in a way that can help improve lives each and every single day. And when I think about it, if you look at your smartphone that you have, whether it's an iPhone, whether it's a Samsung, those products will have 10 to 12 different 3M products inside of them, our adhesives, our optical films, and many more other products that we put into them. And so when you look at the value model that we have, I think the important thing is, as I was noting on the first slide, we want to take our technology, we want to take our products, and we want to use our innovation machine to make sure that each and every day we are advancing, enhancing, and improving the lives of every individual, whether it's at home or whether it's at a company. And we do it with a value model that is deeply rooted in making sure that we are driving a culture of inclusion and diversity. Because operating in 70 countries around the world, you need to make sure that you can understand and appreciate the diverse perspectives that come forward. And the way that we do that is right down the middle of this slide. It's all about our strength. It's all about our priorities. And we want to take, as you will see, the technologies that we have and drive them not only into products, but also to our manufacturing processes and really bolster that all around the world with that strong 3M brand. And if you look at the portfolio that we are managing, again, 60,000 products, it's very diverse. And because it's diverse, it gives us the opportunity to touch so many different markets with our people and with our culture. And so many of you, as I noted on the opening slide, will understand and appreciate 3M from the standpoint of Post-it notes, Scotch-Brite products that we offer, Scotch tape that we offer, our command hooks. And that is one of our 4 business groups that we have at 3M. And what I will say about that is it's actually our smallest, but it's still very strong. Where we play heavily is in 3 other areas. If you look at our safety and industrial business, this is where, as we become very well known for, is where we house our N95 disposable respirator. It's a product category that did not exist prior to 3M inventing the disposable respirator space with an N95 respirator. And I'll talk more about that in slides that will follow. We also have our transportation and electronics business. So if you think about auto electrification, this is where that is housed. If you think about the reflective material that's used on signage on the roadways in any one of your countries, typically that will be a 3M reflective product solution. And then lastly, healthcare. Healthcare is a very large business for us, and it's not just about our advanced wound care products, but it's also about some of the products that we offer around food safety, which has been very important during COVID-19. And also, if you think about going to the dentist, next time you're there, please ask them, are you using 3M? Chances are 90% of them will be using 3M products to enhance the brightness of your teeth or put braces on your kids. And so the way that we drive this innovation model, let's start in the top right-hand corner. We have 51 different technologies. You can see they're broken down into materials, processing, capabilities, digital, and applications. These 51 technologies are owned by the company. And the 4 business groups I just talked about use these technologies to come up with uncommon ways to put them together to solve customer challenges. And that's what the collaborative culture is all about. We have scientists at the company that are subject matter experts that will work with our cross-functional teams, sales teams, marketing teams to understand how do we put these technologies together in a way that can help our customers. And the way that we do that, lastly, is through insights. We have what's known as customer-inspired innovation. Customer-inspired innovation is all about getting out with the customer and asking them, what are your biggest challenges? How can we help? But it's also through insights about sitting back and asking no questions and watching how our customers operate and saying, you didn't realize, but with our technology, we can solve the following challenges. We can make you more productive. We can reduce your costs. And that is how the innovation model works at 3M. And it's been working great since 1902 when we were first founded. And so if you look at it, you have R&D. So our research is all about application of science and engineering. As I said, getting out there, understanding what it is that we have in our suite of technology, and then really working with product development to say, here's what we have, and here's the challenges we're finding. How do we plug them all together, again, to create value for our customers? One thing I will tell you, I've been with the company now for almost 19 years. My father worked with the company for 35 years. This company is all about getting out there and driving value through finding issues that our customers are facing and solving them and having the delight of them saying, we had no idea that was an issue or that was a challenge, but oh my goodness, you've created value. And so if you look at how we as a company have responded to COVID-19, I think the most important thing to note is that first and foremost, we put our employees first. 96,000 employees around the world. We need to make sure that our employees, as well as their families, are safe. And we've done a great job from our CEO down to any employee in the organization. That has been our commitment, whether it's helping them out with getting personal protective equipment or whether it's helping them out through public and private partnerships to get them a vaccination. We were always there to help them. We continue to be. And the second area, because of our healthcare, because of our N95 respirators, we wanted to get out there and help the frontline workers, the first responders. And that's where not only did we provide the personal protective equipment, but we also provided the training on the use, care, and the limitations of those products to make sure that the workers understood how to use them in a way that maximizes their protection. And then lastly, we had some really fun innovation, which I'll talk about with Cummins and Ford as an example, General Motors, around what we were doing to find ways to disrupt our business model and be able to respond that much faster to look after, especially our healthcare workers' needs. And so if you look at this next slide, this is about what is it that we're doing? So yes, we're helping protect healthcare workers. So from an innovation standpoint, if you look at the respirator on the left-hand side of this slide, you have the filter and cartridge on either side of the mask. And then in the front, you have an exhalation valve. Well, that exhalation valve can potentially pose safety concerns because you're breathing air out. And if you're infected with COVID-19, you could infect your patients. And so we came out with, and it's quite a regulatory process, a new cover that would go over the exhalation valve to make sure that when you're expelling that heat and moisture associated with wearing a respirator, that there's actually a filter that will capture that so that you're not going to cross-contaminate individuals that you're working with. We also were able to innovate in the space of coming out with new consumer-facing respirators. And we actually manufacture those here in Singapore. We have both the white version as well as a black version. And then lastly, we had great partnerships with universities in the United States of America to come up with ways to help support the vaccine as well as the therapeutics that came along with our efforts. And so I talked earlier about what we have done, so if you look at Cummins and Ford, we make what's known as a powered air purifying respirator. You can see that in the picture on the left. Basically, you have a battery with a motor blower, and it's pulling air in through a filter, and it's cleaning the air and blowing it into this individual's hood. And so instead of wearing a mask, you're now wearing a hood, which offers a higher level of protection. And so we saw constraints in our capacity. And so what we did is we went and worked with Cummins to help make additional filters, and Ford to get us batteries to run these systems for the healthcare workers. We also, as a big part of our push, has been STEM. And so what we've done is we've offered a competition around how do we come up with the next level mask for the future and for our consumers. And then lastly, of course, we've formed the Pandemic Action Network, which has been a nice move for us, given it's been so important to us to make sure that we are truly fighting the pandemic from all angles. And so when you look at, to that point, addressing the pandemic from all angles, we are very proud of the work that we've done. And what's been so exciting for us is the fact that we are seeing across, the 70 countries that we operate in, the difference that we can make by way of partnering with government. And I talked about it earlier, but the public-private partnerships have been so instrumental in us reaching out to our stakeholders to understand how can we be a good servant to the community, because we truly believe at 3M that the community holds our license to operate. And that is exactly how we operate each and every day. So you can learn a lot more about 3M by going to 3m.com. And of course, I am happy to take questions. I'm happy to take questions in this forum. You can send me an email. You can look me up on LinkedIn. But I think the important thing is 3M, to me, again, as a lifelong 3Mer, is much more than many people know, and we're here to help. So thank you so much, ASEAN, for giving me the opportunity here to present, and look forward to the remaining portion of today's session.
Thank you very much, Kevin, for the wonderful presentation. Now we will have a 5-minute break. We have prepared a couple of questions for the audience to answer. Can you share the polling questions, please? Okay, for the first question, please specify your background. This is just to see the composition of the audience. Then for the second question, what is the digital service you have used during the lockdown? Maybe the digital service that you used frequently during the lockdown. And the question number 3, what is the most important technology infrastructure you want to improve in your country? Question number 4, what is the most challenging aspect in developing new digital technologies in the region? Question number 5, which is the most important aspect of intellectual property or IP? For number 6, the last question, which one of the following you think is a challenge in implementing IPR? So we will wait a few minutes. Can we now share the results of the survey?
Rick, I'll just make a quick mention. We look forward to, we'll share also the results during the Q&A portion of today's event as well.
Yes.
Thank you.
We will use this online survey for the question and answer later, moderated by Mark. Can we now share the quick results? We will elaborate them later on the Q&A session. So for the results, here are the results. We'll just browse through them because we'll use them later for the question and answer portion. Okay. Thank you very much for participating in the online survey. Let's now move on to our second session. We are pleased to welcome Dr. Mego Pinandito, Acting Deputy for Research and Innovation Utilization, National Research and Innovation Agency, BRIN, Indonesia. Dr. Mego holds a doctorate degree on electrical engineering from Shinshu University, Japan, and previously he also obtained a master's degree from Ehime University, Japan on the same field. Prior to serving Indonesia's National Research and Innovation Agency, or BRIN, Dr. Mego was the Deputy for Scientific Services at the Indonesian Institute of Science. Dr. Pinandito, the screen is yours.
Yes, thank you very much. And see. To Ms. Norika, and hopefully all of you are in the best situations. And very good morning from Jakarta, of course, with our colleague from other countries, were probably in afternoon or still in the early in the morning. Nice to meet you again, and here on behalf of the National Agency for Research and Innovation of Indonesia, I would like to express again very gratitude to the US-ASEAN Business Council for inviting me in the 2021 regarding to the webinar of Innovation for Sustainable COVID-19 Recovery, showcasing healthcare and also digital service sectors. And Excellencies, honorable speakers, moderator, and also distinguished participants, should like from Qualcomm and also from Pfizer and also 3M. It is very nice to meet and also to hear your presentation. And it is always our hope that we can also do together to fight the what we call this pandemic. Just for information, if we also can share the screen, it's probably it's okay. It's just a little bit information regarding to what Indonesia, especially in our research, that had been at least two years focus on fighting in the this COVID-19. As regarding to the Indonesia, which BRIN plays the important role in the facilitating, and of course with focus on the how to make such kind of the important role in the regulatory framework regarding to the establishment of the ecosystem research and innovation. We have already do with facilitating the access of innovation. For example, based on the law, Science and Technology Law, number 11, 2019, just years ago, the BRIN represent, integrate all of the activities in Indonesia. Of course, we have such kind of the national talent management. We open our laboratories, platform and research and infrastructures. And again, we hope that by the national budget with the research grant, it will become the small part to the activity, but again, we invite for the international collaboration regarding to these activities. And the other things regarding to these research in COVID-19 to fight the We have already 4 priorities to foster the national response for the COVID-19. Our priorities are research on the development of the herbal-based medicines, development of we call the vaccine, we call the Merah Putih vaccines, the development of the non-PCR detection kits, and also for genome sequencing-based surveillance. It is not limited to that priorities. We are open also to develop more and more the medical devices like the ventilators, robots, or remote sterilizers, and also very simple like the face mask and also on. And for example, our ventilating in the NFC 01 has been widely produced and used in the market during this pandemic COVID-19. I think this is what we do with research and also the industries, since before it is very difficult to make such kind of collaboration between the researcher and also the industries. But again, by this situation, it became very what we call good and very excellent opportunity to do this. The other things based on this regulation, we are also have facilitated in the research grants, including the ones of the health of the field, and also in specific, we are going to open more call for the proposal, like for example, we do the clinical trial grant. The grant is emphasis in the proof process for our research result by clinical and also the clinical trials. And we know that the process, it must be engaged with the industries as the business partners. We can also with the hospitals as sites, and also such kind of the ministry and the other authorities as the authority for the clinical trial in Indonesia. So is clinical trial, we know that it is very complex process that requires a long time and a big funding, and of course with the high risk in the successfully in the end. And of course it takes more and more participation with the stakeholders. And of course is because this activity is high risk, and also with some uncertainty of the result, we think that the response of this, BRIN as a part of the government will present that share to the risk, and of course with one set of the grant. Of course, the main goal is to provide the proof of our research and innovation so that it can be utilized in the market. So I think in this case of the clinical trial, we are also hope that at least the 3 of the international multinational companies, as the 3M, Qualcomm, and also Pfizer, may be invited to these activities. Of course, it is also what we'd like to do in this session. And the other thing is we are also have such kind of the online platform from the clinical trial. We call the multi-center clinical trial. We said in Indonesia is Sri Kandi. This platform is designed to support the management, the big data, data analysis, and also clinical monitoring of the clinical trials. We call the MCCT is respond to the challenges of the data management in clinical trial by providing integrated and also online case report form for the multi-centers clinical trial. I think this facilitates this process in the registration of the intellectual property rights, such as the patents, design of the rights, the copyrights, and also the trade secret, and so on. So not only for this, but again, we are also enhancing the utilization of the innovation, and finally, we get more and more support from the industry by doing research and innovation, and finally to get our society in good health. Thank you very much, and hopefully we can also get together and have the international collaboration with industry in the multinational company. Thank you very much. Back to Norika.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mego. For our second panelist, here is Mr. Pham Hong Quat, Head of Department, National Agency for Technology, Entrepreneurship and Commercialization Development, Ministry of Science and Technology, Vietnam. Mr. Quat holds a Bachelor of Laws from Hanoi University, Vietnam, and a Doctor of Laws from Nagoya University, Japan. He worked for the National Office of Intellectual Property of Vietnam from 1993 to 2009. He was Deputy Chief Inspector of Ministry of Science and Technology in 2009, specializing in the intellectual property right enforcement. From 2014, he is the Director General of the National Agency for Technology, Entrepreneurship and Commercialization Development. As a member of the Committee for Revised Law on Science and Technology 2013, Mr. Quat proposed significant changes into the national legislation supporting the National Innovation System. He is also a member of the National Startup Ecosystem Project Committee for promoting the innovation entrepreneurship in Vietnam. Mr. Quat, the screen is yours.
Xin cảm ơn, xin trân trọng cảm ơn Hội đồng Kinh doanh Hoa Kỳ ASEAN mời tôi có tham dự cái panel ngày hôm nay với lại rất nhiều các diễn giả có uy tín. Tôi thì cũng như là ngài đại diện của Indonesia vừa nói đấy, thì cũng là một cơ quan để phụ trách thúc đẩy cái hệ sinh thái đổi mới sáng tạo ở Việt Nam. Và chúng tôi cũng học cái mô hình này từ thung lũng Silicon Hoa Kỳ, rồi học kinh nghiệm của Singapore và một số nước khác. Và cũng rất mừng là trong 5 năm vừa qua thì hiện nay Việt Nam cũng được đứng thứ 3 trong ASEAN sau Singapore và Indonesia, là hệ sinh thái được đánh giá là đứng thứ 3. Và chúng tôi cũng đang có rất nhiều nỗ lực để kêu gọi các tập đoàn tham gia vào hệ sinh thái đổi mới sáng tạo quốc gia. Những bài phát biểu của ngài đại diện cho Qualcomm, Riser, 3M.com đều là những cái bài học rất là giá trị với chúng tôi, và chúng tôi rất là mong muốn được đồng hành cùng với các tập đoàn lớn. Trong 3 năm vừa qua thì chúng tôi cũng đã đồng hành cùng với Qualcomm Việt Nam để tổ chức một cái giải hackathon cho các tech startup của Việt Nam. 35 bạn đoạt giải và được tài trợ từ Qualcomm những khóa học, rồi những cái chuyến đi thực hành tại Qualcomm của các nước rất có giá trị với các bạn trẻ Việt Nam. Và chúng tôi cũng mong Riser, 3M có thể có những sáng kiến, đưa ra những cái challenge, những cái thách thức để cho các đội startup của các trường đại học, các vườn ươm của Việt Nam tham gia giải quyết. Bên cạnh đó chúng tôi cũng tổ chức thường niên cái sự kiện TechFest Việt Nam từ năm 2015 đến nay. 7 năm qua thì dưới rất nhiều chủ đề khác nhau để kết nối các chủ thể trong hệ sinh thái của Việt Nam với ASEAN và quốc tế. Thì năm nay chúng tôi cũng dự kiến tổ chức TechFest vào giữa tháng 12 năm tại thành phố Hồ Chí Minh và Hà Nội, Đà Nẵng, 3 đầu cầu. Chúng tôi liên kết tổ chức online kết hợp với offline. Thì cũng rất mong muốn là các quý vị quan tâm và cũng tham gia để hỗ trợ cho hệ sinh thái khởi nghiệp sáng tạo ở Việt Nam. Cũng tương tự như các nước trong ASEAN thì Covid đang là một cái thách thức, nhưng mà chúng tôi cũng nhận định đây là một cơ hội cho các bạn trẻ khởi nghiệp sáng tạo Việt Nam. Chúng tôi hiện nay có khoảng hơn 100 vườn ươm startup theo mô hình các tổ chức thúc đẩy kinh doanh, rồi các vườn ươm. Và đây cũng là nơi tạo ra những cái mô hình kinh doanh mới dựa trên công nghệ trong lĩnh vực về y tế, giáo dục, chăm sóc sức khỏe và nông nghiệp, du lịch. Các vườn ươm này hiện nay đang chung tay với chúng tôi là tham gia xây dựng 16 làng công nghệ trong TechFest. Chúng tôi TechFest quốc gia được chia thành 16 lĩnh vực, có 16 làng là những cái giám đốc vườn ươm tình nguyện tham gia. Và chúng tôi cũng đang từng bước hình thành các liên minh mạng lưới của các trường đại học kết hợp với các tập đoàn khu vực tư nhân. Thì nói về cái sự đứt gãy trong chuỗi cung ứng của Covid thì một thách thức lớn của chúng tôi là cái phát triển thị trường cho các sản phẩm mới. Thì các đơn vị truyền thông vô cùng quan trọng, và những sáng kiến như Hội đồng ASEAN Hoa Kỳ tổ chức như thế này là rất là tốt để thúc đẩy cái sự liên kết, chia sẻ thông tin về thị trường và nguồn lực. Thứ hai là về nguồn vốn. nguồn vốn thì các quỹ đầu tư mạo hiểm cũng dè dặt hơn khi tham gia vào đầu tư cho các dự án khởi nghiệp tại các vườn ươm do cái sự khó khăn về phát triển thị trường đầu ra. Thì chúng tôi cũng đang rất mong muốn được các quỹ đầu tư và các tập đoàn cũng tiếp thêm cái nguồn lực cho cái đội khởi nghiệp trong hệ sinh thái của Việt Nam. Thì về chính phủ Việt Nam, Bộ Khoa học Công nghệ chúng tôi cùng với một số bộ ngành khác thì luôn đưa ra những sáng kiến để thu hút nguồn lực về trí tuệ, về các mentor, các cố vấn về công nghệ của các tập đoàn, rồi thu hút sự chung tay của các vườn ươm trên toàn cầu. Hiện nay thì luật đầu tư đã sửa đổi, luật doanh nghiệp cũng sửa đổi, luật chuyển giao công nghệ chúng tôi cũng có nhiều quy định sửa đổi, rất mở cửa. Và các doanh nghiệp ở Việt Nam thì được thành lập cái quỹ phát triển khoa học công nghệ để đầu tư cho khởi nghiệp sáng tạo. Thì với những cái hành lang pháp lý mà đang từng bước được hoàn thiện thì chúng tôi cũng rất mong muốn được chung tay cùng với cộng đồng các doanh nghiệp của Hội đồng Hoa Kỳ ASEAN, các nước trong khu vực ASEAN để có thể hình thành cái hệ sinh thái đổi mới sáng tạo chung của khu vực ASEAN và liên kết với các tập đoàn lớn của Hoa Kỳ để thúc đẩy cái đổi mới sáng tạo của khu vực ASEAN cũng như từng quốc gia. Chúng tôi xin trân trọng cảm ơn cái sự quan tâm hợp tác của cộng đồng Hội đồng Hoa Kỳ ASEAN và các tập đoàn cũng như các đối tác trong khu vực ASEAN. Rất mong là có dịp được hợp tác và tham gia những cái sáng kiến, những cái sự kiện để thúc đẩy cái hoạt động này.
Thank you very much, Dr. Quad, for the wonderful message. For our last panelist, we have Dr. Maud Noor Azman Hassan, Deputy Secretary General, Ministry of Science and Innovation, Malaysia. Dr. Maud Noor Azman Hassan is currently the Deputy Secretary General of the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation. He oversees the policies and development of science, technology and innovation ecosystem to support the socio-economic development of the country. His previous positions were in the areas of higher education, the power sector, and technological development, including industrial-related technologies such as renewable energy, advanced materials and manufacturing biotechnology, and nanotechnology. He had extensive engagement with the industry, including the SMEs, in particular to communicate government's policies and programs relating to STI. Dr. Azman, over to you.
Thank you for the introduction. I shall share my screen in a second. Just checking. I hope my screen is there. Right. Can I check whether my screen is in full?
Yes, we're seeing your screen very clear.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's an honor for me to be speaking at this 2021 US-ASEAN Innovation Series on innovation for sustainable COVID-19 recovery. So I'm sharing some of the efforts and initiatives looking forward as we move forward for post-pandemic or rather recovery through the use of sustainable innovation approaches. These are the four main subjects that I'm going to share. Basically, on national vaccine development roadmap as vaccine management system, some efforts in screening and monitoring tool, and looking at how we approach culture and adaptation of in the community through high tech and low touch initiatives. Lead and what do you call that? Lay the foundation and making sure that everybody, the stakeholders in the development of vaccines, whether they are the industry, the government, the academia, the researchers, or even the community at large, to come together, and we outline the target with short-term and medium-term towards long-term for Malaysia to become a vaccine for human producer. As of now, we have been producing vaccines for animal, so we have that capability. But looking at how Malaysia, of course, most of the countries in ASEAN import vaccines from other countries. So we import most of them, of course, coming from Thailand and AstraZeneca. So learning from this, we have to actually, leapfrog or utilize the capabilities that we have already in Malaysia. We have been funding more than 20 years ago development, research and development into various types of vaccines for human. So some of them are already ready for uptake, and through this roadmap and the conversion, the announcement of the Malaysian Genome Institute into the Malaysia Genome and Vaccine Institute, this will and this is an initiative important for Malaysia to become a producer of human vaccine, together working with a lot of others, including countries like the US and other partners in ASEAN and other countries in bringing in technologies through technology transfer and looking at how our experts can also work together. The next initiative that I want to share is the vaccine management system. This is basically a utilization of blockchain technology in tracking the use of vaccine of COVID-19 to the people of Malaysia. So we track it from end to end once it arrives in Malaysia and how it's distributed. We record it through serialization, coding, and then we track it using Hyperledger Fabric blockchain technology until it reaches the users, and we know how many doses are used and who gets it, which suppliers, which brand, which batch numbers, and so on. So with this also, we issue the certificate based on blockchain, a digital certificate that can be used for authentication of a person that has already been vaccinated. So these are used widely for, even though they are being administered or given vaccines or appointments through the manual process. We have an app that also allows the majority of people in Malaysia, more than 90% used the app, including those who booked for vaccination through manual. They are still being tracked through this vaccine management system. And here, the relevant or related initiatives or technology that we use digitally is digital vaccine certificates. I've spoken just now, using still the blockchain technology roadmap, blockchain technology in the vaccine management system. This complies with the World Health Organization's digital documentation of COVID-19 certificates, because such as the use of offline record or offline authentication, the data shown in the middle. So we developed this from via Mimos Berhad, a government-owned technology company that develops this that to allow vaccines to be verified and complies with the need. And we also developed an app that can also be mutually recognized by other countries. So we've been speaking with the Singapore government to utilize this. The offline method of authenticating the certificates. We are also working with the EU to have the mutual recognition of certificates through this digital application. Next is this: we have this vaccine verification of vaccine certificates. This is how we use it. We have been speaking with Singapore, China, even the EU. This is how an immigration officer, for example, or even the Minister of Health enforcement officer utilize the vaccine verifier to scan the certificates, the QR code with digitally signed information. Remember, it's blockchain because related, and the certificates is tied to the VMS just now, vaccine management system. There's no requirement for data storage in the mobile phone or application database. It's just leading it through our app, MySejahtera app, where the individuals that gotten a vaccination can be confirmed that he or she has been given the vaccination through the certificate, because the Verify apps has this public key. Of course, the private key is with Malaysia. The public key is given to another country, then officer or authority to actually verify it. The next related initiatives towards recovery is the enhancements of our contact tracing initiatives, utilizing Bluetooth proximity. We have been discussing about with Singapore GovTech that shares with us some certain algorithm. We have been speaking with the South Korean government and other countries to actually allow us to weigh and consider which one of these efforts are going to be effective. We are utilizing a Bluetooth proximity within My Sejahtera app, the app that tracks people, allows people to register when they go into several premises. This will allow a smooth and optimized way for contact tracers utilizing dashboard to inform close contacts if they have been they are advised to be home quarantine or not. So this is also coming into roll out in a few weeks' time. It's being used, and we are doing this while also protecting data privacy of data through data pseudo-anonymization, the term called here. Moving forward, we are looking at how to quickly and detect or develop local technologies and capabilities in detecting COVID-19 and other, of course, viral diseases in the future through a more innovative way. This is an AI screen, an app developed by a combination, working together within academia and industry in Malaysia. We call it, this is called AI screen. It is now being screened, it's being tested now, where it's just detecting the various cough pattern, and the artificial intelligence machine learning in the system will differentiate between positive and negative cases. The specificity and sensitivity of it so far is more than 95%, close to 95%. Results can be obtained within 30 seconds. We're hoping to actually roll it out in the next few months or so, in the lead of next year. The other one is eye breath. You just blow your, of course, your breath into a nozzle. And this is also based on AI. It's non-invasive, 20 seconds fast result, similar to what Singapore has in terms of the process there. I can't recall the name in Singapore, but this is going to be around 94-95% sensitivity. And this is developed by the University of Technology Malaysia, together with a few industry to actually test and allow it to be rolled out in the not too distant future. Of course, the last but not least that I would like to share is the various high-tech, low-touch initiatives that we have in the transportation. For example, when you move forward around in the public, we need to actually introduce a lot more low-touch kind of interactions. 94 of these technologies or products are there for us to now look and how to see how these can be rolled out with the collaboration with industry, the community at large in these various sectors of focus. The concept is adapting the new normal via high technology, driven by need to ensure safety in business continuity and whatnot, and of course expanding local R&D products footprint. So thank you very much. I'd like to again thank you for allowing us to share the initiatives. We invite others with the industry, businesses to come together and partner with us in developing a lot of these initiatives post-pandemic COVID-19, 2019 cross recovery. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Azman. I would like to encourage everyone to please drop in your questions in the Q&A tab below. We are also issuing e-certificates. Kindly answer the post-event survey form after the event to receive one, linked on the chat box below. Now, moving on to our open forum, I am pleased to welcome Mark Mealy to moderate the discussion, as well as all of the speakers and panelists.
Narika, thank you so much. And let me also again really send my warmest thanks to all of our panelists and speakers from both the public and private sectors. we at the council see these types of interactions as vital to foster first and foremost an exchange of perspectives on many of the kinds of issues that we know are important to both business as well as government, but sometimes are coming at these issues from different perspectives, which is not surprising. And we also believe this is really valuable in trying to facilitate dialogues, which ultimately we think can really lead to better partnerships. As the moderator, I want to make the remaining time together, and we've got about 25 minutes for Q&A to really make this as interactive as possible. So the floor is open to participants to ask questions to any of our speakers. As Rika said, please use the chat function. We actually do have a couple of questions in the queue. So let me just get right into it. And basically, I'll put this question on the floor and we can offer short comments from any one of our speakers who would like to respond. But the first question we want to get into is, where do I have it here? Oh, yes. Would any other speakers care to share any ideas or any examples that they are familiar with, successful examples for really promoting more innovation in these sort of education and academia environments, particularly like in ways that, it really attracts and energizes the interests of students, parents, and obviously particularly maybe in areas where connectivity can be challenging. And potentially this question could actually lead us into, as we started off in some of our earlier presentations around the role of rolling out of 4G and 5G infrastructure to maybe address one of those impediments. And if that is the case, I may ask Alex if you might want to offer your thoughts on what do you see again are some of the challenges that need to be addressed to maybe speed up that pace of the infrastructure development for these next generation telecom technologies that are becoming available. But so basically, examples, experiences, ideas, making the academic environments more conducive for fostering innovation. Any thoughts or comments there from our speakers?
Mark, if you like, I can have a go at that first part of the question and your second question as well. With regard to assisting the education sector, starting at at secondary school is where you have to really start. So one of the impediments there that we've seen around the region, and it was brought into very, very stark focus by the pandemic, was that most schooling in Southeast Asia was of the traditional variety, within the classroom, pen and paper and teacher. And with the closing of schools because of social distancing and such like, it doesn't mean that a child's education has to stop. It did hasten that transition to online learning. And one of the impediments to transitioning children to online learning was there are two things. One is having a suitable device to do the online learning with. And the second part was having a network to connect it to, or a subscription to a network to connect it to. So we saw the emergence in a lot of places of policies to assist online learning, and that was very great and good moves. Some were quicker than others, but even in the sort of on the developed end, those policies were in place already. We did a project. We had started a project in Vietnam prior to the pandemic, where we were donating laptops, always connected, always on PCs, what we call ACPCs, to the first tranche was 30 schools in Vietnam. We've done another tranche of another 30 schools. Where we provide these laptops. They've got a very, very long battery life. They don't need to be charged more than once a day. And we paired them up with LTE. They come with 4G connectivity built in. So we donated these and some training to the schools. And that kind of became a pilot project for for connecting students.
Let me pause you there, Alex, real quick. I just want to make sure we just keep it going, but you've highlighted again some key points. Number one, it has to start early. Number two, the tools that are really critical. So the necessary investments, and again, those can be good partnerships. And then three, there has to be sort of that connectivity. And I probably would add the ability maybe to even provide some training for those who then have to be on the other side of trying to communicate this learning now through
that
sort
indeed
of
was
an online piece.
Yeah, that indeed was my last point.
Okay.
I was just about to make it, so I'm glad you picked up on that.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Does anyone else want to speak now?
Yeah.
Or?
Sure. Like I said, so pause there, Alex. Again, if anyone wanted to jump in, we do have some more questions, but if anyone had any additional thoughts from their experiences, again, strengthening that innovation sort of culture at the sort of the academic education place.
Yeah, Mark, I'll hop in there because STEM is such a big area for 3M as a science-based company. And so we've got a couple of different programs that we run, not just in Southeast Asia or Singapore, but we run around the world. One that I will highlight in Singapore is the Tinkering Head Start program, where we take our scientists and we inject them into the classroom. So as an example, we did this with the Southeast Community District here, along with the mayor, to get in with kids that are age 7 to 16 to build, as an example, solar cars. And the important point that I will make here is that we have what's known as our State of Science Index that we run every year. It's the world's largest global science perception survey. And what we find is many kids are deterred from STEM because their parents don't know how to foster an environment at home that says STEM is okay, I can help you. So we actually bring the parents into these sessions so the parents can understand and appreciate STEM and be a addition to at home encouraging them with STEM. And to me, that is the most important thing that we can do as a company, is bring our scientists out there and teach these kids that STEM is a great area for you to continue to drive your education and awareness in the classroom, but also outside of the classroom.
Great. Appreciate that. Let me turn to another question. And again, we'll keep this flowing. We always recognize at the US-ABC that obviously ASEAN is unique, 10 countries at varying levels of development. And I think we'd all recognize there's also, each country is kind of at their own stage in their quote unquote innovation journey, really trying to foster innovation as a key driver of development and growth. So the question that I think we all would agree, though, while there may be variations amongst the regions, amongst the countries in the region, I find that across all 10 countries, there's a shared desire of government and business to try to find those, win-win solutions where, the local innovation ecosystem is enhanced, institutions, human resource development, et cetera. And then also, though, commercial opportunities for both domestic companies, but also international companies to really pursue in those ecosystems, I think is generally, a consensus. Everyone's looking for those kinds of things. Question that we get here, this next question is, can folks want to offer any thoughts or examples of how innovation is really playing a critical role in sort of addressing, gaps, development gaps, ways where, there's degrees of certain communities not really being included in the growth agenda, so to speak. We know they exist. We always are trying to, in the healthcare space, we've talked about technology, being a tool that can enable, telehealth to finally get healthcare services maybe into underserved communities. But again, I welcome any other kinds of examples or thoughts where we see innovation really playing a role sort of in some of those socio-economic development kinds of concerns and questions. Was the second question. And our colleagues from government, if you'd like to, again, offer some experiences, whether it be in Indonesia, Vietnam,
maybe
Malaysia,
I can.
go ahead.
Dr. Azman here from Malaysia.
Yes.
Maybe I'd like to share on social innovation aspect of it. So we've introduced a lot of initiatives that brings technology to the grassroots innovation system through our foundation, National Innovation Foundation. For example, giving and providing them with the abilities to learn new things, new technological approach in doing things. We've just completed maybe one example, teaching the bottom 40 group, the youths on how to repair the smartphones. And we provide this training for them to even start their own business, even though it's small, so they can be part of the economy. So this kind of social innovation through using technology we hope that it can provide. We have seen a lot of developments, encouragement in terms of encouraging result, in terms of uplifting their social economic status, and we hope to introduce more of this social innovation and entrepreneurship activities and programs. So this is just my sharing.
Sure. No, that's much appreciated, because I think you're capturing a point that there really has to be a desire and targeted interest to really maybe reach those communities and go to those communities that again are perhaps at the lower economic status, again maybe previously disenfranchised communities, to really make a difference, and not just, so to speak, well, it'll just trickle down to everyone if we improve the ecosystem. I think we recognize, no, there needs to be some targeted efforts if we're going to really have those kinds of impacts. So thank you for that. Any other one want to jump in on that question again, sort of how innovation, tech, and that social development kind of space? Please. From Vietnam, yes.
Xin cảm ơn. Trong khối chính phủ tôi cũng có thêm một cái ý kiến. Tức là hiện nay Việt Nam thì đang triển khai cái chương trình chuyển đổi số quốc gia. Đây là một chương trình rất lớn và có hai điểm nhấn, một là về đào tạo giáo dục các cấp và hai là về y tế. Tuy nhiên là cái nguồn lực từ chính phủ thì rất là hạn chế. Thành ra là chúng tôi đang rất mong muốn tận dụng những cái nguồn lực, những nền tảng đang có sẵn của các tập đoàn để cùng hỗ trợ khu vực công lập, các trường đại học, các trường giáo dục phổ thông và các bệnh viện, đặc biệt là khu vực công lập. Thì hiện nay chúng tôi cũng đang tổ chức rất nhiều các cái cuộc thi cho các cái bạn trẻ khởi nghiệp để tham gia và cùng giải quyết bài toán của chính phủ. Thế và các tập đoàn đứng đằng sau họ để gọi là customize những cái nền tảng của quốc tế cho phù hợp với cái đối tượng học của Việt Nam là rất là quan trọng, cả học ngoại ngữ và học các cái môn chuyên ngành. Thì về phía chính phủ chúng tôi có những chính sách để thúc đẩy chuyển đổi số về tư duy, về cách thức quản lý và công nhận những cái chứng chỉ đào tạo. Tuy nhiên những cái nền tảng là rất là tốn kém. Ví dụ như cái nền tảng MOOC đấy, nó gọi là Massive Open Online Course của Hoa Kỳ đang và bây giờ lan tỏa đến rất nhiều nước, rất thành công, nhưng mà để triển khai được Việt Nam cũng rất là tốn kém. Thì chúng tôi cũng rất là mong muốn được cái sự tham gia hỗ trợ của các cái tập đoàn để có thể giúp chúng tôi thực hiện thành công được cái chương trình chuyển đổi số quốc gia này trong cái lĩnh vực đào tạo và y tế. Tôi xin cảm ơn.
Thank you, Mr. Anil, why don't you jump in and then I'll go to Dr. Mego next, please, from Indonesia. Go ahead, please.
Maybe he will actually cover this from Indonesia, because when I really reflect on this, some of the good things which really happened when we think about the crisis, it's all bad, but of the pandemic. But when we think about opportunities it gave to startups, especially technology startups and startups which wanted to solve for some of the healthcare solution problems, but they didn't have scale and opportunity to participate in it. I see that in Indonesia, I've seen that in Malaysia, I've seen it in Singapore. I'm sure it spreads across ASEAN countries. There are very small companies which got immense opportunities to really partner with the government, let it be on surveillance, let it be on data and mobilization, let it be on population awareness creation, or even navigating the contact tracing mechanisms, etc. There were so many companies which have got an opportunity to participate in large scale and truly test their capabilities. And I think it's a true testament of governments, startups, industries coming together to make that happen. And it's very, very widespread. The number of companies which I know of are in hundreds, which have been participating in this space.
Thanks, Anil. And hopefully, I guess I guess since ASEAN's been doing well in terms of incubating quote unquote unicorns, perhaps we will see some quote unquote digital health unicorns emerging in Southeast Asia as the post pandemic environment moves forward. As you said, hundreds going into the space. We'll see where they can move going forward. But Dr. Michael, please go ahead. Please jump in, please. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mark Malik. I think BRAIN itself, the National Research and Innovation Agency, that is the biggest innovation I think in Indonesia, since we have the mandate from the president to conduct the integrated research, development, assessment, and also the kind of the application as the invention. So our BRAIN now to consolidate all the national science and technology resources, that is including the human resources, that is researchers and all the groups. And of course, we consolidate also the research infrastructure, the laboratories, so that we can also get together and use to share the equipment and also laboratories, and of course, the budget. And creating of this, what we call this orchestra, it should be the global standard. It just comply with several standard and also regulation, and so that we can also engage with the national and also international collaboration itself. And with the pandemic, it is somehow we can also focus on the public health, for example. And this strong collaboration will also get more and more supporting to the national economic growth and also base for the sustainable development. As you said, also what you like to do in the for example, to commercialize the research result doing by the researcher. We are also open a number of the we call the STP, Science Technology Park. That in that region, for example, in Sumatra, Java, and Kalimantan, and Sulawesi, and it is in at least the three triple helix. There will be the government, local government, who will control and regulate that activity in science and technology, and also we have such kind of academics that is coming from the local universities linked with the international base or scale of the national university in Indonesia, and of course with several big companies who are engaged with the small and medium enterprise in the local. So it can be look at the triple helix in the it almost in the perfect situation, and then finally how to bring such kind of innovation and directly to the industry by using such kind of the support from the Indonesian budget for what we'd like to do and explain regarding to the multi-center clinical trials, and also supporting in such kind of the high risk and need more and more investment. So the government set it together. So hopefully the research and innovation, such kind of innovator and investor can come together and doing the best for the Indonesia. I think that's all. Thank you, Mark.
Okay, thank you. Alice, we got a quick one, and I want to also bring up our survey results.
Yeah, I'll be quick, and I think it follows on from what Dr. Migo was saying. You know, what we found was over the pandemic, with social network, with social distancing, that there was a transition from traditional sales to more online sales, and online sales facilitated by online financial services and online payments, but then also facilitated by more efficient logistics networks and delivery systems and all of that stuff online. But behind that sits the need to communicate how to use these tools to small and medium enterprises. So there are a number of people, and one NGO that comes to mind is the Cherie Blair Foundation, which provides online they match online businesses or small businesses in around ASEAN with online mentors, and they use connectivity and mobile connectivity and mobile devices to provide online mentoring, and those mentors are able to guide, in this case with the Sharif Blair Foundation, women entrepreneurs to take their businesses online, expand their markets, and even use the pandemic as a mechanism for growth. So that was a very exciting sort of development to watch. Sure. A kind of bright spark in the middle of some of the darkness.
Yeah, Alex, thank you for sharing that. That's a good example. And as many of you know, the US-ABC sponsors a regional SME online academy. And Alex, if maybe that's the kind of partnership we should think about, seeing if we can collaborate with that foundation. And so we'd welcome maybe just, if you got a point of contact, sharing that with us. Narika, let me turn to you. Would love to get us an opportunity to get some of the survey responses from our participants, because we all know government sometimes thinks, the biggest challenge or the biggest opportunity is this. And sometimes business thinks the biggest challenge and the big opportunity is that. Let's see what some of our participants think with regard to some of the questions that are broadly speaking touch on the issues around digital health and responding to COVID. So I think we have a good sense. We got a good mix of people who are in government, academia, the NGO community, and private sector. Okay, so we got some diversity there, points of view. What's next? Second question.
For the second question, what is the digital service you have used during the lockdown? It's surprising that they haven't used telemedicine, but I've used it frequently. E-commerce, 20%, government services. I think they used social media more to connect with everyone. E-wallets and e-payments, all of the above is 28%. Okay.
Number three.
For the third question,
go ahead.
What is the important technology infrastructure you want to improve in your country? So 32% is internet connectivity. I personally would vote for this one. Physical infrastructure, 0%. Internet of Things, 12%. Digital health services, 56%. So the winner is the digital health services. Question number 4. What is the most challenging aspect in developing new digital technologies in the region? So policy regulation, 32% voted for policy regulation, 12% for talent, 8% for culture, 24% for infrastructure, and 24% for cybersecurity. For question number...
Hold on a second. I think our participants here really have a good sense of the key aspects of an ecosystem, because these are the things that really help make up any given ecosystem, from policy, talent, infrastructure, cyber, et cetera. So I think we're spot on there. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Narika. Go ahead for number 5.
For number 5, which one is the most important aspect of intellectual property? So 40% answered it fosters innovation. 0% answered enhances market competition. 44% says it promotes protection to innovators, and 16% answered it protects consumers.
Right.
So for number 6, which one of the following you think is a challenge in implementing IPR? 4% voted fair regulation, 20% voted counterfeiting and piracy, 4% voted requirements and long process of patents, and 72% says all of the above. That's it, Mark, for the survey questions.
Yeah, I think that, obviously some of those responses I think are very consistent with, I think, many of the perspectives that we've heard today from our speakers. We've kind of reached the end point of our discussion, and I would like to give an opportunity for the Deputy SecGen from the ASEAN Secretariat, Mr. Singh, to maybe offer some closing comments. We know the ASEAN Secretariat is really one of the most important stakeholders at the regional level for driving a number of efforts in innovation, science, and technology is certainly at the forefront of the region because we know it's a high priority for all 10 ASEAN member states government. So we'd welcome, I see you're with us. I see your face there. Good morning or good evening, depending on where you are. Please feel free to offer some sort of closing perspectives on how the Secretariat is looking at some of the broader issues around fostering deeper and more robust innovation in ASEAN. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mark, for giving me the opening to come in. I've been catching up, not all of it, but I think I got most of the session today morning. So I appreciate all the contributions by all the participants. I think all of you did an excellent job. I also had enjoyed looking at the survey findings that were shared on some of the critical issues. And I again see that we have a very engaged participant team here. So congratulations to all of you. As first, of course, I like to commend the US-ABC for collaborating with COSTI in organizing this US-ASEAN Innovation Series. They are all part of our innovation ecosystem development programs. And I think we should think about further enhancing and continuing our collaboration in the coming year too. As you all know, this series, this is the second webinar. The first one we did some time ago, not too long ago, it was on developing innovation hubs in ASEAN. It also included virtual tours of innovation labs. I think today's series itself was also damn interesting, and it was also very timely. And I'm glad that for the program today, we were able to touch on how the harnessing of innovation is critical to support our recovery on COVID-19 and to enhance our ability to deal with the future. This collaboration with COSTI and ABC, I think it makes really a good contribution to the implementation of our own ASEAN Plan of Action on Science, Technology and Innovation 2026-2025. And our partnership with the US-ABC initiative really involves like this, mobilizing private sector resources, identifying mechanisms for effective engagement, raising public awareness, and more importantly, hoping we can work with the member governments in enhancing the ecosystems in our region. So therefore, this is truly a very valued partnership. I'm glad that the event today and many of the speakers highlighted all the important elements, the role of IPR, 5G in innovation and COVID-19 recovery, the resilience and growth in ASEAN, the role of innovation partnership, even touching on digital health and digital education, and lastly also on sustainable innovation for our future preparedness. I'm glad to hear, that we all are, in concert. All of us are together in finding ways to harness innovation for COVID-19 recovery. And as I said, I had a chance to hear some of the presentations this morning. I think the one from Pfizer on telemedicine and how you can transform primary healthcare services and support. It's extremely relevant, and you can hear from the participants that this is an area we should collectively spend more time in. 3M's integrated innovation model is also relevant. It's very interesting also, especially for me to see the insights from Vietnam and Malaysia. I really want to commend the solid achievements made by the ASEAN member states to come up with innovative ways to reopen their economies and to deal with the endemic COVID world. We know, like I said, we are just currently only touching the surface only. More will come in the near future. Most of you know that COVID as of mid-October is impacting all of our ASEAN member states. 41% vaccination rate today is ASEAN. We are making good strides. Many of the ASEAN capital cities, in fact, most of them have achieved more than 80% vaccination. You all know the economy is rejuvenating. We are going to end this year with a growth of the entire region of 3% compared to minus 3% last year. And we are projecting that growth next year is going to be even stronger at 5%. As we speak, I think it's important that to note that, as you know, there's been many announcements this week. You can see that the ASEAN member states are all reopening their borders and removing some of the strict quarantine requirements amongst themselves. This is very welcome. And I think despite that, I think one thing is for sure, the way we are going to work, we're going to be able to play, to live, and to even travel across borders. I think that has definitely changed forever. And we definitely have to learn to bring in innovation to deal with this new world. And naturally, we're not going to go back to the old ways. So therefore, I do believe that this very strong open sharing is critical to enable an environment where both private companies, government agencies, the academia, universities, social enterprises, even entrepreneurs can all actively come together to share ideas. And I do really agree with Anil from Pfizer that there's probably never been such a time where so much of innovation has happened in such a short span of 2 years. I think while it's very painful experience for many of us in ASEAN, but in the space of innovation, actually, there is actually a little bit of celebration, because the kind of things that we've been able to push, the kind of transformation that have taken place across many sectors, not just in healthcare or in education. I think even in normal commercial trade digitalization, there has been a huge amount of momentum, and I think that momentum is not going to turn back. I think we're just going to head forward, and which also means that there's going to be a huge amount of opportunities for the whole innovation ecosystem to take advantage of it. The contribution of the private sector, to me, it's extremely important in this journey, and I would like to emphasize that there's a continued need for us to have this public-private partnership. And in order, I'm also kind of aware that, sometimes there's a bit of worry from the private sector that, we don't want to share everything with the public sector. They sometimes are worried about the large state-owned enterprises taking their ideas and running away, and they're not getting their intellectual property recognition. But what I can assure you today is that I think there is ample, sufficient support today that really is there to help some of these startups and smaller companies to protect your interests, at the same time to be in the forefront and be part of that scaling up of the solutions that the whole region needs. So I think that the level of confidence definitely is heightened in the region. And we should not just look back in the old ways. Sometimes when you sit around with entrepreneurs and startups, they always drive, they say, look, we want to share, but we are worried. But I think there are ways today to overcome that and mitigate that. And if anything, I think the last 2 years have shown that it can be done. When there's an emergency, when there's a need, people and companies and entrepreneurs from all sides come together. And I think that's brilliant. What I want to also kind of share a little bit on my side personally is I will also like to highlight, it's not just about startups, right? I think we need to also look at the SMEs. And this is where I would like to commend the work that we have done with US-ABC on the SME program, where we are definitely committed in wanting to continue the development of SMEs also. So when we are looking at startups, I think we can't forget this another large pool of enterprises called the SMEs. And I think as the current pandemic, COVID-19 has forced a rapid advancement of technology, I think we all need to come together to help them even transform even faster. And I think this is where there's a need for digital reskilling, getting their leaders of some of these SMEs to rethink how they organize their companies to fit with the new world. I think this is a space where many of you, the corporate partners here, you probably have quite a significant role in working with the Secretariat. We are looking to revamp our SME Academy, and we want to build effective platform in order to help professionals in many of these SMEs to upgrade, reskill themselves so that they become relevant first themselves, but at the same time get the right commercial relevant skills to then help the organizations with the transformation. I think that's the space that we are going to be looking next year into supporting more actively, and this is where I look forward to working closely with US-ABC and also hoping that we can get COSTI support in pushing some of the initiatives for next year. So finally, I just want to congratulate all of you. I mean, it was a very interesting, very insightful morning, and there's just so much to absorb. And I think there are gems of information and sharing by all of you. And I truly want to thank, on behalf of the ASEAN fraternity, to all of you and the participants for the sharing this morning. Thank you.
No, thank you very much for those fantastic remarks. Narika, as we come to a close, my dear colleague, is Ambassador Mahalik with us, or Shall I say a few final thoughts?
Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. This has been a very exciting webinar, and I hope you all have had an interesting and thought-provoking time. I know we could continue talking about innovation, invention, and discovery all day, but I'm sure you all have Zoom calls and other innovative things that you need to do today. So in closing, I'd like to thank all of our esteemed guests for their time and expertise, and thank all of the distinguished participants who joined our webinar for their attention and participation. I would also like to thank our speakers and panelists from 3M, Pfizer, and Qualcomm, as well as from the Science, Technology, and Innovation Ministries of Malaysia, Indonesia, and Vietnam for sharing their valuable insights and experience in making innovation work in real life. As we have seen from today's discussions, innovation plays an important role in driving economic progress and also facilitating ASEAN's recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. Innovation provides the tools and solutions for countries and people shifting from a zero COVID-19 strategy to flexible control of the pandemic, going from pandemic to endemic. The new strategies allow economies to recover while keeping everyone safe and keeping business operations sustainable. People are increasingly adopting telehealth, online education, remote working, and other digital technologies as we transition into a new normal. COVID-19 accelerated digital transformation, and we hope it has also highlighted the importance of innovation and encouraged the development of innovation ecosystems. We look forward to more public-private partnerships to encourage innovation, whether through competition and challenges aimed at students and universities, through startup networks and ecosystems, or through workshops and webinars to share resources and global best practices. The US-ABC and our members are eager to be a resource for the ASEAN private sector and government. As global leaders in innovation, we are excited to share our achievements with the region. Finally, our special thank you to the ASEAN Secretariat, represented by DSG Satvinder Singh, and the ASEC STI team, as well as the ASEAN Committee on Science, Technology, and Innovation. We look forward to continuing and expanding our collaboration with all of you in 2022, hopefully in person. Once again, thank you for joining our webinar, and I wish all a successful day or evening ahead. And now I'll turn the screen back to Norika.
Thank you for the recorded message, Ambassador Mike. Mark, do you want to say a few words?
Just very briefly again, thanks all to our speakers. I can guarantee you that in 2022, you will continue to see the council and our members continue to increase our efforts in the innovation space. And particularly in some certain areas, we know innovation and technology is an enabler that's horizontal in nature. And we're certainly seeing the desire of our members to increase our activities in the healthcare space. Obviously, we know that's a priority for many governments moving forward from sort of the COVID experience, because obviously COVID in some ways has revealed limitations of existing healthcare infrastructures. And we know therefore governments want to try to address those shortfalls in going forward. And we also, I think, recognize the role of innovation on the broader question of sustainability is going to again be a very fundamental area for the council and for many of our members. Really excited to hear the point about engaging the SMEs space in the council. As many of you know, our partnership and our online SME Academy is being expanded thanks to additional resources provided by US-ABC members. So we're very excited to see where that particular initiative is going to continue to grow and be able to be even a more valuable resource to more SMEs across the region. I can just tell you, for example, one of the things that we'll be doing is we'll now have some of the resources on that platform available in multiple languages, and hence to be able to reach more SMEs throughout the ASEAN region. We think that's a natural progression of being able to have even more impact in that space. So all in all, again, very much appreciate everyone's time today, both this morning and this evening for those here on the East Coast of the United States. And again, please stay tuned for the continued efforts of our innovation team in putting on activities like this, as well as trying again foster deeper collaborations and partnerships with our member companies and obviously the governments and other stakeholders in Southeast Asia. Thank you all again. And Narika, unless there's any other final thoughts, I wish everyone a very good morning or a good evening, no matter where you are. Thank you again.
Thank you, Mark. I would just like to remind the participants to please fill out the post-event survey form to receive e-certificates. I think that's all. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, speakers, panelists.
Thank you, Ms. Yurina. Thank you, Pak Mego.